Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Glassman's world. This is Dan the Glassman, and we're about to get started here. Gonna make some more jewelry. Got to make another 5 more to complete the next batch of 50. So that's cool. So today we're gonna do something a little bit different. Today we're gonna be talking about this new announcement that recently just came out. What, a day or two ago? 2 days ago, actually, two evenings ago, um, the governor of New Mexico, Michelle Lujan Grisham, and mayor of Albuquerque, Mr. Mayor Tim Keller, they made an announcement, a plan to consider converting the state fair site into businesses and housing. So they're going to shut down the state fair, guys. They're going to shut down all the events at Expo New Mexico. And they're going to relocate Expo New Mexico to a whole nother area of town or of the state. So this is pretty crazy. This is like basically breaking news. I spoke about it a few nights ago, or actually the following morning after we heard about this, and talked about it a little bit, trying to figure out what was going on and everything with all of this, and if it's true. And yeah, I mean, it's after that first announcement that I made, it's been in the news everywhere. So this is from let's see, SantaFeNewMexican.com, which is a publication here in New Mexico, the Santa Fe New Mexican. So this is a news story here, updated 19 hours ago, December 3rd, 2024, by Elena Mensinger. And let's read this real quick here. So Albuquerque, the New Mexico State Fair may be on the move. The groups at Expo New Mexico in Albuquerque, the home site of the state fair, as well as the annual Gathering Nations powwow and an outdoor flea market, might instead become home to families and businesses. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham and other state officials Tuesday unveiled a plan to potentially convert the property into mixed-use housing, retail, and entertainment areas, and give the neighborhood an economic jolt of energy. A $500,000 request for proposals for a master plan to redevelop the 236-acre state-owned parcel at 300 San Pedro Northeast will go live Wednesday and remain open for 45 days. The State Fair Commission unanimously voted to issue the RFP with funding from state capital outlay. This is the first large-scale committed effort with real money, with real opportunity, with money for housing, with all the right people in the room, Lujan Grisham said at a news conference Tuesday at Expo New Mexico, an event attended by officials and developers from the city of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. There is a thing about perfect timing, and we're in a spot in New Mexico where everything has come together in a really meaningful way, the governor said. I have a great deal of confidence that we're going to make a lot of stuff happen in short order. Lujan Grisham said she doesn't expect the fair's move to affect the Downs at Albuquerque, a racetrack and casino that leases part of the property. The State Board of Finance approved a 25-year lease for the racetrack in 2011, which recently was extended to 2047. For now, I would expect that the racino stays for a large amount of time, Lujan Grisham said. I think this time is different. New Mexicans should expect a visit to visit the state fair at Expo New Mexico again next September, Lujan Grisham said, but come February, she's anticipating a solid vision for the property's future. The proposals received in coming weeks will be evaluated in January. The chosen contractor will then have half a year to draft a plan and receive public input. Lujan Grisham said any development will be done as a partnership between Expo New Mexico, the state, and local officials. The project could help ease a severe housing shortage in Albuquerque, which expects to be short 55,000 units in the next decade, the governor said. Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller announced in 2022 an initiative to add 5,000 new housing units to the city within just a few years through zoning code changes and motel conversions. But local efforts to address housing shortfalls, as well as public safety and economic concerns surrounding the fairgrounds, only go so far, he said Tuesday. The fairgrounds lies in an area of the city known as the International District, where residents and businesses have struggled with rising crime and homelessness. The district has lost pharmacies and grocery stores. A Walmart on San Mateo Boulevard shut its door in 2023. We put almost $100 million in our administration into this community, Keller said. It's hard to believe that because the challenges are bigger than just one form of government than what the county can do or what the city can do. He added, almost every mayor of Albuquerque has wanted to utilize the fairgrounds in a way that is more beneficial to the city, regardless of if the actual state fair is there or somewhere else. Today, we have a chance to finally realize that dream, to lift up the International District and the broader core of the city and make a huge dent in our housing shortage. Over the years, there have been attempts to redevelop the fairgrounds. In 2011, a request from state legislators to form a task force to find alternative uses and revenue streams for the state fairgrounds was approved. But those efforts fizzled, Keller said. I think this time is different, he said. An RFP is real. And the partners who respond to the RFP, that's that partnership that actually made this work that we're missing before. New home for growing fair. State officials are looking for potential new sites for the state fair, floating locations from Edgewood to Moriarty. Keller listed Albuquerque's west side area, Balloon Fiesta Park, and Mesa del Sol as potential options to keep the fair close to home. The state, however, will get the final say. State Fair Commission Chairman Eric Cerna said, a move is overdue. Those of you who have attended the fair, you recognize we have overgrown the facilities and the property, he said. Last year, the state fair brought in a record number of visitors with a total of 517,926 people attending. The first state fair was held in 1880 before New Mexico became a state, said Roger Weimer, former deputy manager of the fair and de facto state fair historian. That continued until the shadow of World War I ended the festivities in the early 1900s. When Clyde Tingley took office in 1935, Mexico's 11th governor decided to form a state fair commission and push to restart the event. A group of Albuquerque business peoples bought a plot of land east of city limits for $10,000. The state fair resumed at the site, now Expo New Mexico, in 1938 and has been held there ever since. The city has grown around the fairgrounds, Weimer said. Although Expo New Mexico is now located in an urban center, which it was developed even in the University of New Mexico, even the University of New Mexico was considered out of town. When the fairgrounds was first established, there was nothing there, Weimer said. There were horse stables and the corner of San Pedro and Central, and that's all there was. Weimer said there have been efforts to move the fair since the early 1970s. It's also been eyed as a potential location for an arena to fill a gap in Albuquerque's entertainment scene and bring bigger performers. Weimer hopes the RFP will return several options for fair locations as well as development opportunities. Is the fairgrounds the right place to do it because they've got the land? Weimer asked, who knows? And hopefully this study will come back and say, here's an option, here's an option. And I guess that's where that news read ends right there. So that concludes that by Elena Mensinger, reporter for the Santa Fe New Mexican. So that's pretty wild, guys. They are talking about closing the doors there and converting it entirely to something new and something different. What do you guys think about that? I think it's pretty wild. For me, personally, you know, I have a lot of connection and a lot of ties with Expo New Mexico. You know, I remember when I first moved here back in 1988, I guess, 1988, 1989. You know, we didn't live too far away from here, from the fairgrounds. We lived on a street on Mesilla and Copper, and that was just right down the street from the fairgrounds. And I do believe we walked to the state fair one year, one of the first years that I moved here from California. So that's one of my very first memories of going to the fair was when I was a child, going with my family, with my father, my stepbrothers and sisters, my brother, you know, going and checking out rides and stuff like that, you know. And then, you know, later on in high school and stuff, growing up and going to the fair with my friends and riding rides and everything, you know, and having fun all the way through, you know, the 90s, you know, up until even until last year, taking my family to the state fair, riding the rides, going with my best friend from high school, you know, and riding some rides together, even just last year, you know. So we've been doing that since the 80s, right? State fairs brought all kinds of memories, a lot of family memories, friend memories, a lot of different things that I can remember. You know, I remember back in 1997, I was 21 in 97, and I went to my very first wine tasting event, and that was there at the Expo New Mexico. You know, had really good times, good memories there. You know, it was a lot of fun. I remember I went with my friend JR and probably Colin again, another time. You know, we've always done a lot of things together since high school days. And I remember going to, you know, around and getting samples from all the different places to try out. That's where I got to figure out what type of wine I really enjoyed, what type of wine I liked, which ones I didn't like, you know, why I liked them compared to why I didn't like other ones and stuff like that. And I remember, you know, we went around, kept going around, getting samples and getting samples to the point where I remember one of my friends, I'm not going to name who, but was already buzzed from all the samples and went to go put his glass down and was like, I need another sample. To put it down. And when he put down the sample glass, he broke the stem and the whole thing just fell apart. And they're like, sorry, you're 86. He got cut off from samples. So I remember that, you know, that's a really good memory from way back in the days. That's a real cool, fun memory back from, when we first turned 21, first going to a wine festival. And then, let's see, around that same time, I also was learning how to blow glass in 95. And it took me a year or so, into 96, 97, to where I actually started selling my glass in public. And the first place that I ever set up was at the state fair. Well, at the flea market at the state fairgrounds at the Expo New Mexico. So that was back in 97. And that's where I got to meet a lot of my good friends from back then, the Delta 9 Re-Legalization Coalition, the group that I was involved with, and we were producing Hemp TV on Channel 27. I met a lot of those guys there at the flea market. They were set up. They had their own little booth going for Delta 9 and Hemp TV. And I was set up directly across from them with my glass. And one of the guys over there, now my good friend, Sean, he came over and was like, "Hey, I'd like to learn how to blow glass." And basically that's how we connected, and we started hanging out and started showing him some glass. And then I introduced him to the guy who taught me how to blow glass. And we both kind of showed him a thing or two on the torch. And then I got involved with working with them and the group with Delta 9 and with Hemp TV. And so because of the Expo New Mexico flea market, that created that whole era for me, and then I don't know how long I was there, how many years. I think I probably sold stuff for a couple years at the flea market before moving on. Gosh, so that's just like in the 80s and in the 90s. Let me think, what else do I remember? Anything else kind of newer? That's where I took my first child to the state fair, right? It was actually one of the times where my child ended up having a fainting spell, got dizzy and fainting before we realized that, and before the hospital was able to diagnose my child properly. It took a couple visits and a couple times before we caught it, but then we found out that my child was type 1 diabetes, had type 1 diabetes. And the state fair, I remember that was a clear reminder and memory of what happened there. And I had to rush her to the emergency area there in the middle, which would be like off of Copper Road there, if Copper went through the fair. Right there, right by the midway, where the midway opens. And I remember having to be in there, and they were trying to figure out what was going on, and my daughter came too, and then it was like she was fine and everything was okay. And we ended up just going home and getting her checked out later, and they couldn't find anything because her glucose levels were establishing okay, but every once in a while she would drop low and stuff, and eventually got to the point where she became a type 1 diabetic. So that's also a memory there. Trying to remember in early 2000s, I don't know. Later 2000s, I don't know if I ever did anything there. Maybe going to different events at going to like Monster Jam. I remember when I was younger, we'd go check out the monster trucks at Tingley Coliseum. Also in high school, around 91, 92 maybe, was my very first concert that I ever got to see. which was MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice with, I think, En Vogue. Don't judge me. You can laugh. I'm laughing now. I used to wear the hammer pants. I used to have the hair done up like Vanilla Ice. And so, yeah, that was over at the Expo New Mexico and Tingley Coliseum. That was like early 90s. Got to see my very first concert there. And then going to see Monster Jam with my father. He took us there when we were younger, like probably younger teen, probably like right when we first moved here in the later 80s, the early 90s, going to Monster Jam. And then in 2000s, that was around the time when I was doing some work with a company called NRG. NRG, they did like audio and sound and stuff for really large companies or really large productions, really large shows. And a few of those shows that I got to set up and work for at Tingley Coliseum was Tool. And that's an amazing experience to be able to be on stage before Tool gets to be on stage, and you're setting up cables and running lines, running cords, helping out with unloading things and stuff like that, getting it all set up. Seeing how it looks before it's actually all lit up and everything. And then getting the shirts, I've had so many different like employee shirts, I guess, where they're the shirts that you get for working different events, different gigs. I'm wearing one right now, actually. I'm wearing my Monster Jam shirt. I used to sell snow cones and stuff. But back in the 90s, that was some of my first concerts, going to see the MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice with, I think it was what, En Vogue. It could have been TLC, but I think it was En Vogue. Go on ahead, you can laugh. And then there were other concerts like Ozzy Osbourne. There was the MTV's Headbangers Ball Tour with that was like Megadeth, Sepultura, Slayer, Metallica. Maybe that was the time when Alice in Chains was there, opening up. I think Alice in Chains also opened up for Ozzy one time. Got to see Pearl Jam there. Trying to see how many other shows did I get to see back in high school in the 90s, between 90 and 95. There were a few times when I got to go see, they had some basketball games there, and they had the hockey game. And I got to see some of the hockey games there. That was pretty interesting. And then they had indoor football. They've had the basketball, the football, the ice skating, Snoopy on Ice. I don't know if I ever saw any of those kind of shows. I know I got to see the monster truck and then concerts. Remember jumping over the wall, getting down onto the floor. We didn't have floor tickets, but we were able to jump down. As soon as the lights went down, boom, jump over, and it's like scatter. And hopefully you're not one of the ones that gets caught by security. That was always fun. And then, and then there was probably a time when I wasn't going to anything like that. The state fair wasn't set up at the flea market or nothing like that. But then I remember working Monster Jam. One of my biggest, largest viewed videos here was from Monster Jam and seen the Scooby-Doo truck in the backstage when I was working right there, and I was they were coming in and out right there where we were going in and out, getting our snow cones, our popcorn, or whatever we had, cotton candy, whatever we were selling. I always sold the snow cones at Monster Jam. And so that's one of the largest viewed videos I've ever had on this channel here, is the Scooby-Doo monster truck video from years ago. So, you know, that's a memory right there and part of YouTube history now. I don't know if I have any other videos. I got to take my son recently to his first Monster Jam. Was that last year or the year before? You know, so we have some memories there. Trying to think what else. Going to the Gathering of Nations powwow in 2017, which kicked off the Drop of Water. Another huge thing that happened for me. Expo New Mexico helped kick off the Drop of Water because of Gathering Nations powwow and doing the Buffalo Dance, which brought in all 19 New Mexico pueblos all together for the first time in 400 years, I believe. Maybe 200, but I think it was in 400 years that all 19 pueblos came together to dance the Buffalo Dance. The first time in 400 years. They all came together to honor the water, to honor the buffalo, to honor the water protectors that were up at Standing Rock, to honor Standing Rock, and the Oglala Sioux tribe, and friends of mine from Acoma Pueblo invited me to be there. They asked me if I would make the drop of water for them to wear with their regalia during that ceremony. So that became a huge thing. And that was in 2017, April of 2017. You know, that kicked off so much. Being able to go to the stage 49, meeting all kinds of individuals, gifting like Naco Bear, Medicine Tribe for the People, being able to meet Skimmy from a Native Root, all kinds of other bands that we met and gifted that first year there. Yeah, so many things. In 2008, backing it up to 2008, when I had Element 37 going, we got to perform on the main stage at the State Fair, at the Expo New Mexico State Fair. That was awesome. That was one of our highlights of Element 37 back in 2008. And being up there on the stage with my friends Big E, Mikey Jaramillo, Danny the Harp, and myself. I think that was it. Danny played the guitar and the keys. Big E on the bass. Mikey Jaramillo on the drums. I think Liquid Cheese played right after us, if I'm not mistaken. That was really fun. There's video of us there. I believe that's on my original channel, Glassman TV or The Glassman TV. I think it's just Glassman TV. And then we performed several other places there. The African American Pavilion several times. I don't know if I ever performed at the Indian village or at the Hispanic village. I don't believe I ever got to perform at any of those places. Um, Gosh, a few years ago, back in 2018, 2019. It might have been 2018, 2019. Um, when I was with Serena, with my wife, and she had just given birth to our son. We were walking around the state fair, and that's where we had our shitty experience with Norwex, where I created that post, that blog of my shitty experience with Norwex, and how we're walking around, we're looking for the bathroom because my son needed to have his diaper changed. And on the way through the Manuel Lujan building, we were stopping at all the different booths, checking out the different things, like, oh, look at, there's salsa. Try some salsa. Oh, look at this massager. Oh, look at this. Look at that. Let's walk through. Because the bathroom was like way on the other side. And so we're like going through and like, oh, check this out. Check that out. And like slowly like making our way to the bathroom finally. And we weren't stopping at every booth. You know, we'd stop at one booth and like, okay, we got to keep going. Got to keep. And then we'd stop at another like, oh, look at this. Look at it, like real quick. And then we saw the Norwex booth and we're so close to the bathrooms right there. Like so close. We're about to make it. We're right there. And I was like, wait, babe, check this out. This Norwex stuff is something that, like, I forgot I haven't even told you about yet, but I got into when I was at Camp Two Dogs and invested in this stuff. It's really awesome because you clean with using only water, and it's a part of the whole the Drop of Water campaign and how to become a water protector and getting away from toxic chemicals and cleaners so we can have a clean water supply and making sure our water is going down the drains, cleaning our homes, and basically turning our homes into safe havens with the Norwex products. And so I was telling her, showing her this, and we met the lady who was selling the sales rep there, and she was showing my wife, like, oh, yeah, yeah, like, let me show you this. And she was about to show her the demo, probably like putting chicken on a mirror and showing how it cleans it up without getting any of the bacteria to show up with one of the testing swabs or whatever. And as that happened, then I noticed, I felt something on my arm, and I looked down and I realized my son had leaked out of his diaper onto me. I was holding him on one of those chest carriers, and yeah, it went all the way down on my left side. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It dripped down onto her, like, her booth floor right there, which I felt so bad. It was like a rubber mat. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I was like, I got to go and get them cleaned up. And I ran, and I just ran outside instead of going into the bathroom. I ran outside to just like try to figure out, like, get him off and get him changed. And then I was going to go into the bathroom and try to get myself cleaned up. And as I'm putting him down on the grass and I'm taking him off the little carrier there and we're trying to get him cleaned up and changed, here comes the Norwex lady running out the door with the Norwex cloth, nothing but water. And she leans down, kneels down on her knees, and she starts wiping my shirt and my shorts and cleaning me off. And my wife's looking at this crazy lady wiping her husband, and she's cleaning me up. And she's like, oh, look, no. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I made a mess over there. And she's like, no, it's okay. Look at this. And, and she starts doing a demo. She uses that opportunity to do a demonstration. She uses her Norwex cloth, the Enviro cloth, with just water. She cleaned my shirt up. She cleaned my shorts up entirely. It like mechanically picked it up, removed it from my fabric, and like picked it up onto the Norwex fabric. And like even the smell was gone. I was like, what? Like, what is this magic material? and I had already invested in it. And when I was using it, I was still using it with soap with the Dr. Bronner's from time to time, and every once in a while I would use it with just water. But I didn't really understand the capability of it until that day, and that's when I was resold into it, and I felt so bad because I didn't have enough money and funds to buy the rags, the cloth that she had just used to clean me up. And I felt so bad. And she's like, "Oh no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I could just rinse it and wash it." And I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like it's really like that. Like the lady who sold it to me, she told me a little bit about it real quick, but I didn't know it was like that." And like, oh my gosh! So I was sold on it again. We ended up being able to stay at the fair. I didn't have to rush home. Like I said, there was no smell. I was completely clean. It was like a miracle. Like what? That's ridiculous. And so and it could have been because of the material that I was wearing, because it was kind of polyester material. So maybe that helped out with her being able to remove all of that from my clothing with the Norwex or whatever. But that's another experience that we had over at the Manuel Lujan building there at Expo New Mexico. And then a week or two later, we call up the lady, and my wife signs up, and she becomes a Norwex consultant because of that. So another thing that changed our lives, that was directly because of the Expo New Mexico and these different events there. It's amazing to think, like I'm going back, like I'm on these memories here, like oh my gosh, like the Expo New Mexico has had so many different memories. It's been so impactful in my life from the things that I can remember. I remember when I was a kid going to the state fair, and that the train, the little model train. I don't know if you guys know about the model train. It's over there, kind of like where the animal barn is on that side of the fair. In those one of those buildings right there on the side, maybe even directly across from the barn, and they have this really awesome toy train, a model train. And when I was a kid growing up in California, I used to have a little train that we would put on my father's pool table. It was pretty big train set that I had. And we had these pieces of board that we put down, and then the tracks would be on there, um, and then I'd be able to add to it and put all the different, the town and the trees and the tunnels and everything like that. So I always grew up loving trains, and that was one of my memories, was a toy train there at the Expo New Mexico at the state fair every year. And it was awesome to be able to take all of my children to go see that train when they were younger, and then growing up, and recently being able to take our son just last year to go and see it, and him and Ooze and Oz, that was so cool. So yes, the Expo New Mexico and the state fair has really done a lot to change my life. The Gathering of Nations powwow, bringing in the drop of water, the flea market, being able to meet all these individuals that then changed my life into so many, like those individuals from Delta 9 and Hemp TV, like they were so community oriented. They changed my outlook and my perspective on life. I used to grow up like without really caring. I used to be a little skater punk, and I didn't really have that much of a conscience. I didn't really think about things. That was the first time when we'd have potlucks, and we'd gather every Sunday, all the time. We'd gather and we'd join together, and we'd all share meals. We'd all cook for each other. And before we ate, we would all gather hand in hand, and we'd all express our gratitude, say thanks of something, and go around the circle before we all ate. And it was a beautiful thing. I never had any sort of community like that before. And those are individuals that I met through the flea market there, selling glass way back in the day. That's where my glass blowing kicked off, was at the flea market at Expo New Mexico. It's amazing to think back, like how the Expo New Mexico has really had an impact on my life and all the different things, including my wife's life now and being a Norwest consultant for like 5 years now. You know, she just had a few, like 3 sales in a day the other day. She was really stoked. You know, the couple people got the mop system, and then she sold a couple other items, the kitchen towel pack, the 3-pack, the one that she pulled out that I showed for Thanksgiving that day, and then I don't know what else she sold, something else. But she had 3 sales in that day, and she was like really stoked about it because they're doing like the whole Christmas, 12 days of Christmas or 30 days of Christmas push or something. I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, you know, the state fair in Expo New Mexico has really changed my life in many ways, has impacted it in so many different ways. And gosh, I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Expo New Mexico's, oh gosh. And then just recently, at the state fair in 2023, last year, I entered my glass balloons, the original 13 balloons from 1972 made into glass. I entered those into the Creative Arts Building art show contest in the glass competition, in the glass category, and I won first place in Best of Show. Another thing that really, really impacted my life ever since then, being able to show that ribbon off and being able to just tell everyone I'm now an award-winning glass artist, it has it's really changed quite a bit, and it's now gotten me in a direction where I know I'm going to be going with the glass balloons a lot more and really focusing and putting my energy and efforts into those things. Although right now, you know, I'm making a lot of these mushrooms here. I used to sell a lot of these mushrooms there at the flea market. You know, that's where I was selling them for $5. They're still $5. Although they were a lot smaller. I'm not going to lie. I make them a lot bigger these days. All right, we got one more so we can complete this 25 here. And then I'll probably finish this up here. But it's pretty amazing to think that they are now going to shut down Expo New Mexico State Fair and convert all of that, all those memories, you know, everything just gone. I'm just like, wow, like we've done so many different things there, you know, to think about all the things we've done with the kids, pony rides, going with different individuals that I've been with throughout my life since high school, you know, or even middle school. Probably the first time I probably went was when I was in middle school back in like 88, 89. And then I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I can remember that's been really big? You know, working with the Cruderers, what are they called? Concessions, Cruderers concessions, and doing the snow cones, selling snow cones, getting paid to go down to El Paso and follow them down there to do the Monster Jam there too, and then they put us up in a hotel room. Like, that was an awesome experience just from working at the State Fair, the Expo New Mexico here. Not the State Fair, but at Tingley specifically. And then they got the racetracks here and the casino, which I guess they're not going to do anything with the racetrack and the casino. They've got a lease up for a while, and that's also a separate property and everything. So they're going to build a city hub inside of this place. They're going to build the housing and build businesses within the Expo New Mexico. That's now the plan. They have up until January of next year to to talk about these things and make the plans happen and have the bids go in by February. They're going to finalize who wins the bid and which developer gets to start working on drawing up the plans and working with the community on different ideas and things like that, and how they can then redevelop Expo New Mexico into housing and businesses. What they say is it's going to be sustainable housing and also affordable housing. They did say affordable housing. Now, when the mayor speaks of affordable housing, the governor, when she speaks on affordable housing, I want to know what is it in their mind that is affordable housing? You know, is it under $1,000 a month rent? Just a little over 1,000, 1,500, close to 2,000, over 2,000. You know, what is it per square footage? What is it in different regions, different sectors of the city? If they're revamping this area, they're now going to turn all of this area from affordable housing into probably more more expensive. Our rent's gone up $200 in the last year or so. I believe since 2021, 22, we had our first increase, $25. Then it went up $100. Then it just went up again another $100. I'm like, man, they're just gonna keep on doing this. They're gonna keep selling the property. It's gonna exchange hands. A new owner is gonna come in, not gonna do anything to the property, and then charge us more, just because they purchased it and now it's in their hands. And then they can decide, oh, we don't like the rate, we're gonna just charge more, without like bringing in new appliances, without doing anything else. You know, just it's interesting. So the mayor and the governor think this is going to be helpful for this area of town, but what's it going to do to those who have like the affordable housing? I know there's some places that are like off of Cochiti, just south of Central. Not the best neighborhood, not the best street to ever be walking up and down on by yourself, or even with anyone. I would be real careful going up and down those roads. Even if you're just like streaming and trying to show off our to show how bad our city looks in the worst demographics possible. Well, yeah, Cochiti is a great spot to go and show that off for a lot of streamers. I would be real careful going in those parts of town, or even anywhere nearby over here. Anywhere near Zuni and Louisiana, anywhere near. I would be very careful. All right, so we just finished 25 right there. That means there's 50 done, you guys. So I'm gonna call it a day, but I think it's really crazy on what they're doing with this, and how they're gonna convert it. What I've been saying for a while, though, ever since the Walmart shut down on Zuni and San Mateo, and they've been mentioning that as well, like, oh, it shut down because of this and now. We put so much money into this area and it's still shut down. Well, they put a lot of money into this area and they stopped policing things, and also for some reason, like nationwide, shoplifting has just become like this way kind of thing. Like, don't worry about it. I understand, like, when employers are telling employees, don't be chasing anyone down. Don't worry about it. We're insured. They'll let them get away with it. You don't want to. We can't risk your lives and this and that. But when they have hired security guards on that are just hired to also allow them to just walk right out and like, oh, it's okay, it's all right, nothing's gonna happen. They're just gonna get let off anyways in the courts. And if it's just a misdemeanor, if it's not over $1,000 or grand theft or whatever, grand theft larceny, then it's not considered a true crime, and it won't really hold up in the courts. And so they just been allowing these crimes to occur, which has been allowing for these businesses to shut down. And I think it's been a plan on allowing these businesses to deal with the crimes on their own, not having the policing. They kind of do this little game where they kind of show themselves, oh, we're doing this and we're doing that or whatever, right? But what are they really doing is they're just helping to shut down more and more businesses. They recently shut down the Tewa Lodge because of the unhoused situation there. And, a little bit before that, there was a situation that was involving the chief of police there. And that was a high profile case. He ran a red light and he hit a Mustang, a classic Mustang, injured the driver, an elderly individual. I mean, he's older than me. I don't know if he's elderly, but I believe he was at least like in his late 50s, early 60s. I'd consider that elderly. I guess I'm almost elderly. That's so weird to think I'm almost elderly. Jeez, I'm from the 70s. So I think it's quite interesting to understand these different situations that have occurred and how things have unfolded. The events that led up to the Tewa Lodge shutting down, and I did a video on that and breaking it down. And there's a there's a video camera, a surveillance camera from the city showing what was going on and him running the light and everything there. But also what it picked up that a lot of people weren't talking about was the two individuals that ran across the road there and came right at that same time that the police chief just happened to be pulling up at the corner there, and then eventually they shut it down. I don't know if you guys have seen, but all the way up and down from that area, San Mateo, where Walmart Walmart was, that whole area, and where they're talking about they're gonna now that big old old bank building there on San Mateo and Central, that's also going to be converted to housing, right? All of this is going to be redeveloped into housing, guys. But what sort of housing? Albuquerque has been deemed as the Q city. The Q. The Q is like what? Like what's when you're next on the queue, right? Well, we're the Q. We're queuing up this new idea of bringing in decentralized hubs or smart grid cities with smart grid technology and creating a new centralized way of living where you put everything together all in one place, and you create these 15-minute cities where you don't have to leave anywhere. Wherever you can walk in 15 minutes is where you'll be able to go. And so they're going to create these little living hubs, and that's what this is going to be. Or at least I am just speculating. I am just making a prediction. I can't spread any misinformation or anything like that. I'm just making a speculation and a prediction that this is what I see is going to happen. That this location is going to become the Q City's new smart grid 15-minute city. We already have the free transit in play here. We are the only city in the nation that has free transit running. They're getting all of the electric buses in. They're bringing in all the electric charging units, the charging stations. They just put in new ones there at Smith's, the ghetto Smith's, even at Yale and Cole. They're still not even in use yet, but they should be soon. I don't know when they're going to do the ribbon cutting ceremony on those, but those are built and they should be ready to go soon. There is smart grid technology popping up all over Uptown. I don't know if you've been to Uptown recently, but there's all kinds of charging stations there and a lot of new walking, all the places you need to go to walk, all right there. So there's these little hubs that they're creating and building and creating these centralized areas. And I do believe that the Expo New Mexico will become the future site of one of these 15-minute smart grid cities. It's just my own prediction. It's my own speculation. It's not a fact. And we'll see if what I'm saying holds up to be true in the next couple years. Well, actually, we'll find out by next year because um, developers will have the bid go through by in January, and by February they'll know who the bid will go to, and then whoever the developers are, they'll have 6 months to draw up their plans, and then we should know. The community will have input with them as well, and we should know at that point what's going on with all that. So. Um, we'll find out here soon enough, right? So I'll continue following this, focusing on this. I live only a few blocks away from the Expo New Mexico State Fairgrounds, and we can go and travel around, take a look. I don't know if I can get inside there or not. I don't know if it's open to the public during the days, if there's no events or not. If you don't need a ticket to get in, I don't know if you're allowed to just walk around the place. Maybe I can ask to get in and do some video there just to walk around, but I don't know. I don't know if they would allow me to. But that's about it, you guys. I appreciate you all for watching, for tuning in, for watching me make this last 25 of the 50. We got another 25 in here, and these 25, so that makes 50. Another batch of 50. I got to make another batch because these are going to go out the door. The guy said he's going to reach me at the end of the week, which we're here at the end of the week. So I'm going to let you guys go. You guys have a beautiful day. Love and blessings. Thanks for listening to me talk here, and my whole remembering Expo New Mexico, all the amazing different experiences there. Um, it's unfortunate that it's going to get shut down, and at the same time, sometimes change is good. So I look forward to seeing what's going to happen, and at the same time, it's kind of scary on wondering what is going to happen and what are we going to be forced to do. What are the trade-offs? What are the freedoms we may lose in doing all these things? um, yeah, that's about it. I'm Dan the Glassman. This is the Glassman's World, and I'm out. You guys have a good one. Laters.